Now, let's assume for a moment that we could all agree that software is not in a good state. What would that mean? What would that mean? So I'm just going to briefly go over this, and then we're going to get into some meat. Let me check on chat here. There's a tendency to digitize, virtualize more aspects of life, and companies rush into it, which would invariably lead to shoddy work. Yeah. Yeah, laugh, yeah. Kitchen appliance firmware, what? Yeah, I know, laugh. I agree, man. Like, what is that? It's in a mid state. It's in a... I would say that's charitable. That's charitable. I think at best it's in a mid state. Okay, so Synopsys recently co-sponsored the cost of poor software quality in the US with the Consortium for Information and Software Quality. The report investigates the ever-increasing financial impact of poor software quality and the factors that further its continued growth. At a high level, the report's findings reflect that as of 2022, the cost of poor software quality in the US, which includes cyber attacks due to existing vulnerabilities, complex issues involving the software supply chain, and the growing impact of rapidly accumulating technical debt, will total approximately $2.41 trillion. Let's assume that they're like 50% wrong. Even if it's 1 trillion, even if it's $1 billion, that's still a lot of money because of software issues. The report examines these challenges in depth and provides guidance and suggestions for how organizations can best address them, which we will summarize below. What contributes to the cost of poor software quality? Cybercrime. So yes, we know that cybercrime is increasing. Cybercrime losses due to software vulnerabilities rose 64% between 2020 and 2021. That's bonkers. It's another increase of 42% from 2021 to 2022. That's insane. Technical debt. Technical debt has become the largest obstacle for organizations wanting to make changes to their existing code bases. Technical debt refers to the cost of rework and software development, accumulated deficiencies that desperately need attention but are very expensive and time-consuming to mend. But addressing these issues is critical to preventing problems that could leave data and systems vulnerable, which is exactly why I'm following this chain of articles. SysQ found that these issues are not being resolved, and technical debt in the U.S. has risen to roughly $1.52 trillion in 2022. That wouldn't surprise me. I wonder if that's even undersold. Software supply chain problems. Most important to this report's finding this year is the impact of software supply chain challenges. SysQ reports that supply chain problems with underlying third-party components are rising significantly. Problems stemming from weakness in open source components within the supply chain increased an alarming 650% from 2020 to 2021, a trend supported by the annual Synopsys Open Source Security and Risk Analysis Report. The data in the Synopsys report continues to underscore the importance of responsible and comprehensive open source security and risk management. With high-profile incidents like Log4Shell and SolarWinds, I remember those, these types of issues are becoming a constant in the software development world. And it hasn't stopped this year, has it? Perhaps no cybersecurity trend was bigger in 2021-2022 than the scourge of supply chain ransomware attacks. Among the biggest attacks was the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack, which affected the east coast of the U.S. in May 2021. There were also ongoing issues related to supply chain security due to a breach at a software management vendor, SolarWinds. Yeah. So then they talk about the inability to be able to patch these things, sometimes because you can't tell where the problem lies when you have a bunch of open source things that you've pulled in. So when it comes time to like actually track where the problem is, hey Justin on YouTube, thank you, man. You don't know where to look. So think about like NPM dependencies and whatnot. And then some things you can do, and then the report. So I thought this was like, this kind of is a good next step. And then I was thinking about like, well, we actually have some data, don't we?